Abbott's $1.5 billion off-label drug marketing scandal. In the sterile boardrooms of Abbott Laboratories, one of America's most trusted pharmaceutical giants, executives were orchestrating what would become one of the largest healthcare fraud settlements in history. For nearly a decade, Abbott systematically pushed its epilepsy drug Depakote for uses never approved by the FDA, transforming nursing homes into profit centers while putting vulnerable elderly patients at risk. The company's aggressive marketing campaign targeted dementia patients, despite knowing the drug carried serious side effects including liver damage, birth defects, and an increased risk of death in elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis. When the Justice Department finally intervened in 2012, Abbott faced a staggering $1.5 billion settlement, but the damage to patients and families was already done. Abbott Laboratories had built its reputation over more than a century as a reliable healthcare company, founded in 1888 by Dr. Wallace Abbott in a small apartment above his pharmacy in Chicago. By 2012, it had grown into a global healthcare giant with revenues exceeding $39 billion annually, employing over 90,000 people worldwide. The company's pharmaceutical division was responsible for numerous breakthrough medications, including the epilepsy drug Depakote, which received FDA approval in 1983 for treating seizure disorders. Depakote, known generically as Devalproex sodium, was initially hailed as an effective anticonvulsant that helped millions of epilepsy patients control their seizures. However, beneath Abbott's veneer of medical innovation and patient care, a different story was unfolding, one driven by profit margins rather than patient welfare. The scheme began taking shape in the late 1990s when Abbott executives realized that Depakote's patent was set to expire in 2008, threatening to slash revenues as generic competitors entered the market. Internal documents later revealed that company leadership developed a strategy to maximize profits from Depakote by dramatically expanding its use beyond FDA-approved indications. The FDA had approved Depakote for epilepsy and bipolar disorder, but Abbott began aggressively marketing it for dementia-related agitation, schizophrenia, and various behavioral problems in elderly patients, none of which were approved uses. The company's marketing materials falsely suggested that Depakote was safer and more effective for these conditions than existing alternatives, despite lacking the clinical data to support these claims. Abbott trained its sales force to specifically target nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and geriatric psychiatrists, knowing these environments served vulnerable populations who couldn't advocate for themselves. Abbott's marketing strategy was both sophisticated and deceptive, involving multiple tactics designed to circumvent FDA regulations while maintaining plausible deniability. The company created promotional materials that strongly implied FDA approval for dementia-related uses without explicitly stating it, walking a carefully crafted legal tightrope. Abbott sales representatives received specific training on how to promote Depakote for off-label uses without technically violating FDA rules, using coded language and carefully worded presentations. The company sponsored medical conferences and continuing education programs where speakers, often paid consultants, promoted Depakote's benefits for unapproved conditions without disclosing the financial relationships. Abbott also funded studies designed to generate positive data for off-label uses, but when studies showed negative results or safety concerns, the company buried the findings. Internal emails revealed that Abbott executives were fully aware they were promoting uses for which Depakote was neither safe nor effective, with one executive writing that the goal was to make Depakote the drug of choice for nursing home patients regardless of their actual medical needs. The human cost of Abbott's deception became clear as federal investigators examined patient records from nursing homes across the country. Elderly patients with dementia were being prescribed Depakote for agitation and behavioral problems, often without proper monitoring for the drug's serious side effects. Depakote can cause severe liver damage, particularly in elderly patients, requiring regular blood tests that many nursing homes failed to perform adequately. The drug also increases the risk of pancreatitis, hair loss, weight gain, and tremors, side effects that significantly impacted quality of life for patients who were already struggling with cognitive decline. Most alarmingly, the FDA had issued a black box warning in 2008 stating that elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis treated with antipsychotic drugs, including Depakote, faced an increased risk of death. Despite this warning, Abbott continued promoting Depakote for dementia-related behaviors, putting thousands of vulnerable patients at unnecessary risk. Families who trusted their loved ones' care to medical professionals had no idea that treatment decisions were being influenced by pharmaceutical company marketing rather than medical evidence. The investigation into Abbott's practices began in 2005 when several former Abbott sales representatives became whistleblowers, filing lawsuits under the False Claims Act. These brave individuals, including sales representative Stefan Khrushchevsky and district manager Meredith McCoy, provided detailed evidence of Abbott's illegal marketing practices. Their testimonies revealed how Abbott pressured sales teams to meet aggressive quotas for Depakote prescriptions in nursing homes, offering bonuses and incentives based on off-label sales volume. The whistleblowers described training sessions where Abbott managers explicitly instructed sales representatives to promote Depakote for dementia, despite knowing it wasn't approved for that use. They provided internal documents showing that Abbott tracked prescribing patterns in nursing homes and targeted facilities where Depakote usage was lower than desired. The company even created specialized sales teams focused exclusively on the nursing home market, demonstrating the calculated nature of their strategy. These whistleblowers faced significant personal and professional risks in coming forward, including retaliation from Abbott and challenges to their credibility. But their courage ultimately helped expose one of the largest pharmaceutical fraud schemes in history. Federal prosecutors, led by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Virginia, spent years building an ironclad case against Abbott. The investigation revealed that between 1998 and 2006, Abbott's fraudulent marketing of Depakote generated hundreds of millions in illegal profits while causing Medicare and Medicaid to pay for inappropriate prescriptions. Government investigators found that Abbott sales representatives made more than 90,000 visits to nursing homes during this period, specifically to promote off-label uses of Depakote. The company's own internal data showed that nursing home sales of Depakote increased by 74% during the height of the illegal marketing campaign. Prosecutors discovered that Abbott had paid millions in speaking fees and consulting contracts to physicians who prescribed high volumes of Depakote for off-label uses, essentially creating a network of paid advocates. The investigation also revealed that Abbott continued its illegal marketing practices even after receiving warning letters from the FDA about misleading promotional materials. By 2012, prosecutors had assembled overwhelming evidence, including internal emails, training materials, sales data, and testimony from multiple whistleblowers and former employees. When Abbott finally reached a settlement agreement with federal prosecutors in May 2012, the numbers were staggering and reflected the scope of the company's misconduct. The total settlement of $1.5 billion included $800 million in criminal fines and forfeiture, making it one of the largest criminal penalties ever paid by a pharmaceutical company at that time. Abbott also agreed to pay $700 million to resolve civil claims under the False Claims Act, compensating federal healthcare programs for fraudulent reimbursements. The settlement required Abbott to enter into a comprehensive corporate integrity agreement with the Department of Health and Human Services, subjecting the company to 5 years of intensive government oversight. Under this agreement, Abbott had to hire an independent monitor, implement new compliance procedures, and submit to regular audits of its marketing practices. The company was required to ensure that all promotional materials were reviewed by legal and medical staff before use and to maintain detailed records of all interactions with healthcare providers. Abbott also agreed to limit financial relationships with physicians and to provide extensive training to employees about appropriate marketing practices. Abbott's executives attempted to minimize the scandal's impact, characterizing the settlement as resolving legacy issues from discontinued practices. However, the $1.5 billion penalty represented nearly 4% of Abbott's annual revenue at the time, a significant financial impact that resonated throughout the pharmaceutical industry. The company's stock price initially dropped following news of the settlement, though it recovered within months as investors focused on Abbott's pipeline of new products. More importantly, the scandal damaged Abbott's reputation among healthcare providers and patients who had trusted the company's medical claims. Several state attorneys general launched their own investigations into Abbott's practices, and the company faced dozens of civil lawsuits from patients and families affected by inappropriate Depakote prescriptions. The scandal also triggered increased scrutiny from the FDA, which implemented more aggressive oversight of Abbott's promotional materials and marketing practices. Despite the massive penalty, critics argued that the settlement amount was merely a cost of doing business for a company that generated billions in revenue from the illegal conduct. The Abbott case became a watershed moment in the fight against pharmaceutical fraud, establishing important precedents for how the government prosecutes off-label marketing violations. The settlement demonstrated that pharmaceutical companies could face criminal liability, not just civil penalties, for systematic fraud involving patient safety. The case also highlighted the crucial role of whistleblowers in exposing corporate misconduct, with the former Abbott employees receiving substantial rewards under the False Claims Act's qui tam provisions. Stefan Khrushchevsky received over $30 million as his share of the government's recovery, while other whistleblowers also received significant compensation for their courage in coming forward. The Abbott investigation served as a template for subsequent pharmaceutical fraud cases, showing how prosecutors could use internal documents, sales data, and employee testimony to prove intent to defraud. The case also spurred legislative efforts to increase transparency in pharmaceutical marketing, including requirements for companies to report payments to physicians and stricter oversight of continuing medical education programs. The broader implications of Abbott's Depakote scandal extend far beyond a single company or drug, revealing systemic problems in pharmaceutical marketing and healthcare delivery. The case exposed how vulnerable populations, particularly elderly patients in nursing homes, can become targets for inappropriate drug marketing when proper safeguards are absent. It demonstrated the need for stronger oversight of off-label prescribing, which remains legal, but should be based on medical evidence rather than marketing influence. The scandal also highlighted the importance of proper monitoring and informed consent when prescribing powerful medications to vulnerable patients. Healthcare advocates used the Abbott case to push for reforms, including better training for nursing home staff, stronger patient advocacy programs, and improved oversight of pharmaceutical marketing in institutional settings. The case served as a stark reminder that the profit motive in healthcare can sometimes override patient welfare, making vigilant oversight and accountability essential. Today, as pharmaceutical companies continue to develop new drugs and marketing strategies, the Abbott Depakote scandal stands as a cautionary tale about the devastating consequences when corporate profits are prioritized over patient safety, and the critical importance of holding healthcare companies accountable for their actions.